Hey everybody, it's Bruce. I'm up late again and I can't sleep, and I figured I would get a late night rant in. And I want to talk to you about Star Wars Episode 7, the title that I don't care about, Force Awakens, and good versus bad. And honestly, this is going to be bad. So I want to talk a little bit about writing theory and building mythology and how to do a sequel. I have three novel series that are going into sequels right now, two books in process. This is actually part of my life and what I'm doing to make money. So we knew that they were going to reboot the mythology, but the way that they rebooted the mythology, oh yeah, spoilers, duh. Um, we knew they were going to reboot the mythology when they did Seven. What had originally happened, and you kind of have to be older to know this, is George Lucas originally planned out 9 movies in a row, and when he had the plans, he did episodes 4, 5, and 6, which is the classic Star Wars. And if you, my favorite author is a guy named Jim Butcher. He says you have to know how to edit your fiction. There are only 3 Star Wars movies, and Star Wars Episode 7 has convinced me he's really right. There really are only 3 Star Wars movies, prequel movies. 7. Ugh. The thing about 7 is, if it weren't a Star Wars movie, right? If it weren't Jedi, if this wasn't Han and Luke and Leia, this movie would be actually really good sci-fi. There isn't anything technically wrong with the story itself. It follows all the right conventions. It's not incredible, but it isn't bad. It's an enjoyable watch. The special effects are good. The acting's not too bad. The guy who plays the stormtrooper really oversells the "I have no social skills" thing, because even if you were in an army, you'd still be talking to your other brainwashed little abducted kids, right? The Jedi were brainwashed little abducted kids in the prequel trilogies. They took them at like 6 months old. Oh, you have the right blood type. The government owns your child. Ha ha ha. Mine. And and they weren't these personalityless, I don't know how to talk to or interact with people, I have no social skills people. So that was an interesting character choice. But by and large, the movie was good. It was really good sci-fi. The problem was that it wasn't a good sequel. Now, to do a good sequel, there's a couple ways you can do it, right? You can follow through the consequences of the movie or the story you've just done if it's a book. Now, what those of you who are younger don't know is the episode 7 you saw was not George Lucas's original story for episode 7. There was a plot line for episodes 7, 8, and 9 for those movies. It was done in the 80s when they were originally making the Star Wars movies. And about the mid 80s, they found out, well, okay, we're not going to be able to produce these. The actors are doing different contracts. They're going to get too old. And it was set, a handful of years afterwards, like 3 or 4 years afterwards. And it followed the Rebel Alliance actually had territory, but there was still like a sliver of the Empire left. And the Empire had a great general rise up who threatened to undo the rebellion, who was taking back territory. Really great bad guy idea. And when they found out they couldn't do the movies, they gave these 3 books to a great sci-fi writer named TImothy Zahn. And TImothy Zahn took these 3 story plots and he made novels out of it. These novels were so successful that they launched this incredible franchise of, I think, literally hundreds. There's definitely dozens and dozens of Star Trek books, and these are all because the story of the last 3 books that they put into novel form were that good. And as a matter of fact, one of the reasons I can stand to watch episodes 1, 2, and 3 is because of the books of 1, 2, and 3. Book 1 was okay, but a lot of the scenes that got cut out revealed a lot of character about Qui-Gon Jinn and Anakin Skywalker that was important and really added some depth to the movie. And so when they cut those out or they didn't try to put those in, the movie lost a lot. In episode 2, the book was actually pretty good. And the book for episode 2, Attack of the Clones, was really good. The novelization of episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, is possibly some of the best Greek tragedy. That's actually the plot line, the kind of story it is possibly some of the best Greek tragedy I've read in my entire life. I'm not entirely sure the Greeks wrote better Greek tragedy than the novelization of episode 3. It is amazing. I can't tell you too much more. The novelization of 3 doesn't make much sense unless you've read the novelizations of 1 and 2. So those 3 books are worth reading. The movies you can probably skip, but the books are pretty good. And the same thing is true with the original story for episodes 7, 8, and 9. And the original episode 7, 8, 9 followed Luke in his mid-20s now, right? He's become a Jedi, and and it's his quest to become a Jedi Master. While because it was Luke, nothing up to becoming a Jedi was the first 3 movies, and the next was Jedi Knight to Jedi Master. Well, this new threat, and the new threat wasn't just a recycled good Jedi versus bad Jedi. The new threat was a military. The bad guy was more of a military, and there were other Jedi characters. There was an Imperial assassin called the Emperor's Hand, who was after Luke for killing her master and her reason for living. That was very cool. Her name was Mara Jade. Awesome. There's a whole new smuggling network society done with Talon Card. Great characters. I really still recommend this. And as a matter of fact, one of the things that they've ended up having to do is split the mythology, because the people who got this old mythology love it so much that they don't want to ditch it, right? What followed was good. And what made it a good sequel was it took the decisions of the last episode, and then you follow what those decisions play out, right? In Return of the Jedi, the Emperor is thrown down, and the main fleet of the Empire is overthrown. And that means, all of a sudden the rebels can hold territory. They can actually have planets. They don't have to keep hiding and running. And then it becomes much more of a traditional war. It actually became this army versus this army instead of this guerrilla group running around, hiding from the big army trying to squish them. And that's a very different kind of story. There were some really good spin-offs. The X-Wing series, there was the first 4 books, at least, and the follow-up by a guy named Mike Stackpole, which is X-Wing Rogue Squadron, books 1 through 4, and then a book called I, Jedi. Very good. And what they did some things right with the novel follow-ups. Now, rather than throw a ton of spoilers or a ton of advertisements for a bunch of novels that are a little hard to get right now, let's talk about how they did it wrong for episode 7. So in the expanded universe, or what they call Star Wars Legends now, the first reality, they built off of the success, right? Because every success can bring its own problems. Great, you've taken territory, you've freed this big swath of space from the Empire. Now you have to govern it. Now you have to build a navy, and you have to defend territory all of a sudden, which you haven't had to do yet. You've always been able to run around. And now you have to figure out how your politics are going to work, because you have to govern. You can't just hide and run and throw out little slogans. You actually have to rule, and that's a whole different kind of challenges. And that can be an interesting story, and they did dig into that. The love interest between Han and Leia, they kept going through. And Disney, for a pro-family institution, Disney hates families, and they lay out this incredible pile of fuck yous in their storytelling, and that's what makes episode 7 bad. Okay, one of the bad way of making a sequel is taking everything good from the end and throwing it in the toilet, and that's common. It's easy. It's not rewarding though. It isn't. You're not loving your audience, right? And it's lazy, because all you're doing is you're knocking down the whole house of cards and building the same house of cards again, and this is how you get a bad sequel. So episode 7, episode 6, Han and Leia admit their love for one another, and it's kind of clear they're going to get married. And that could be rewarding. There's plenty of characters in just having a married couple having kids in the middle of wartime. There are whole stories. There's a whole series of novels built on this kind of thing. There's a lot to work with there. And Disney can write family drama. A lot of their younger kids stuff still has family drama. Once you hit their stuff for like puberty and above, they hate family. And that's been true since Mike Eisner came in the late 80s, their new director after Walt Disney retired. And it has just been a constant up years to families. So of course, Han and Leia, not only does their love not work, they kind of still love each other, but of course, They're divorced because families are divorced because this is America. So fuck you. Oh, and they have kids, but their kids are evil and only evil. No, old mythology, they have 3 kids. One of their kids goes evil. One of their kids sacrifices himself to save the galaxy. The other kid, is the bright and future star of the next generation of Jedi. And that's dynamic, and that isn't all just free and easy roses, which is lazy on the other side. But it isn't. Fuck you, audience. And this is exactly what episode 7 did. You only have one kid, you can't save him, and the fact that you can't save him splits you up, so you don't have him and you don't have each other. Ha ha ha, fuck you. The Jedi Order. In the expanded universe, Luke becomes a Jedi Master. Luke starts training new Jedi. They don't all work out. Some follow the dark side. Some die. They start having conflicts. They help different factions of people who don't agree. That's all sources of great drama. Episode 7. Luke only won, and his only one went bad. And what did he do? The great hope and hero? We spent 3 movies watching Luke become the hope of the galaxy, and as soon as his first try didn't work, he pouted and he quit and he went home and he didn't help anybody and nobody knows where he is because fuck you, audience. That's what they did. That's not good storytelling. That's not that and it takes the character of Luke and makes Luke not a hero. It just makes Luke selfish. If Luke can't sustain personal loss to go help people out there, as long as it doesn't work for him, he's going to take his marbles and go home. He's not a hero. He's an asshole with a lightsaber. I don't really care what happens in episode 8 because Luke's a dick. He just abandoned the whole galaxy because his feelings were hurt and he felt kind of insecure. Well, shit, he was kind of insecure in episodes 4 and episodes 5. He was a little insecure going to face the Death Star, but the fact that he overcame that was kind of his proof that he was finally a Jedi. Oh, but that too, we're going to throw that out the window because fuck you, audience. That's episode 7. Thank you, Disney. I can keep going, but this is the pattern. This is how you make a bad sequel. Is you take the victories and you make them nothing. And you don't show it. That's the other thing, is they didn't give a reason. They just threw it out. You didn't see a fight for Luke's to be integrated, and you didn't see him lose, because that could at least be tragedy, right? That could at least be drama. Nope, we're just going to automatically assume he fails, because fuck you, audience. We're going to automatically assume that marriage doesn't work, because fuck you, audience. We're going to automatically assume you can't defeat the Empire, because they'll just have Empire 2.0. And all of the victories that the Rebel Alliance won, we're still hiding in caves, because fuck you, audience. This is what makes this story and this reboot absolute shit. It's disrespectful, it's cheap, it's lazy. I don't care what your special effects budget is. Your writing doesn't serve your audience. And then, there's internal mythology stuff. You have a character who's trained under Luke Skywalker, who's been training apparently for all of his life as a Jedi, and a newbie can fight him off with a sword, can fight him off with a lightsaber, a little bit, maybe? Huh? Why? Jedi lore was really rare and nobody really understood it. And then, of course, even though Luke's gone off and hidden, there's characters all over the place who just know about the Jedi and have the right lightsabers and can give you lectures on how the Force works. What? So you throw out your mythology, you throw out your victories, you throw out everything your characters have won, you throw out most of the things that made your characters likable in the first place, and then you say, give me money. Well, you have the money, Disney. You have the ability to make the movie, and you have the special effects to make it pretty, and there are kids who are young enough who haven't read the original stories, or who, this is all they've got. And so they'll pay you money, and I fully believe you will make 2 or 3 more incredibly happy, incredibly insulting, very lazy writing, mythology destroying movies. But you've given me 10 or 12 fuck yous in my story, and here's right back. I totally don't care. Thanks for watching. I watched it in the theaters. I paid my money. I have an informed opinion. My informed opinion is this is one of the worst sequel jobs I've seen in my entire life. Not because it doesn't have talent, not because it didn't have acting, not because it didn't have effects, but because you built it on a card of destroying all of the happiness and everything heroic that was won in the first three movies. And that is where you failed. And that's the one thing you can't fail if a serious fiction person is going to be your fan. So up yours, Disney. You totally failed. I am so pissed at you. And the thing is, man, I love Star Wars Rebels. The XD that's on Disney XD, that's really good because they do the exact opposite. Disney has writers who know how to make a good sequel, and they follow the very things that I've said. Kanan in Star Wars Rebels, has overcome his self doubts, and he started to train people. The clones from the Clone Wars, who in the final season of the Clone Wars, they start investigating Episode 66. They find, they dig in. I don't want to spoiler that. Their actions helps the next generation. They're there and they win, and their victory matters and it builds. Even Ahsoka Tano and what happens to her at the end of the Clone Wars series, which is another huge spoiler, really well written, and that matters, and it matters in a good way, and they don't throw those victories away. They build on them. This is exactly how you do a sequel. This is exactly how you build a mythology. This is how you write the next story. You don't tear it down. You expand on it, right? You don't build it. A good sequel isn't a sandcastle that you smash flat and build another sandcastle. That's really boring. It's a sandcastle that then you dip in lacquer and make that solid, and then you start building the extension wing. That's a good sequel. And Star Wars Rebels I actually recommend that. But the Star Wars movies, I am so pissed. It is the biggest piece of shit in terms of mythology that I've come across in a lot. And I don't swear a whole lot. But there is simply no other phrase in the English language except va te faire foutre. And that's really what they gave us. And what makes me really sad is America is such a place that there are people who are like, that was so cool, because they don't think anymore. They don't link to ideas. They don't look for mythology. They don't look for standardization. And hey, yeah, those people are going to that. I'm more angry at them because they're going to pay Disney enough to continue to see that the original Star Wars movies are going to be desecrated again and again and again. And that's just a tragedy. So that's my thoughts on Star Wars Episode 7. Peace.